Good evening, everybody. Welcome to a celebration of Nantucket Sound, or ACONS as we like to call it. Thanks for taking a little bit of your day and joining us. It's our free educational webinar series. My name is Peter Aramo. I am the Communications and Education Specialist at the Alliance. A little bit about us, for those of you who don't know, we are a nonprofit environmental organization. We're based in Hyannis on Cape Cod, and our mission is the permanent protection of Nantucket Sound, the body of water that lies between Cape Cod and the islands of Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard. And I'm going to share a screen here because that's important right there. Although it's one ecosystem, Nantucket Sound is split between federal jurisdiction and state jurisdiction. You'll see the two different shades of blue there. You have the federal waters in the center of Nantucket Sound, and that's surrounded by state waters that run 3 miles from the coastline of Cape Cod and the islands. And the state waters are part of the Massachusetts Ocean Sanctuary System, and they are protected. But that federal waters section in the middle there, that remains open to development. So the Alliance embarked on a significant community outreach to determine, well, what's the best way to seek permanent protection for this special body of water? And we have, for the last several years, been pursuing a National Historic Landmark designation for all of Nantucket Sound. A National Historic Landmark designation is, in fact, the highest level of historic protection that's possible. And we've been pursuing this in two ways. One is through legislation called the Nantucket Sound National Historic Landmark Act, and that's federal legislation through Congress. We're also pursuing it administratively through the U.S. Department of Interior. So this designation would recognize Nantucket Sound as a sacred tribal site. It would protect traditional uses like fishing and recreation, and it would preserve this body of water in perpetuity. And throughout this process, we have built a very large and diverse coalition of support with nearly 100 stakeholders, groups on board. We have municipalities. They're all along the shores of Nantucket Sound. And throughout the Cape and Islands, we have historic preservation groups, chambers of commerce, tribal entities, environmental organizations, and many others that represent hundreds of thousands of individuals. At the end of the day, the Alliance is seeking National Historic Landmark designation to protect Nantucket Sound, to recognize it as a sacred tribal site. As part of that, we've been trying to spread awareness as to what makes Nantucket Sound so special, and that's why we hold these webinars, which we've been doing since September of 2020. And it's really to celebrate Nantucket Sound's exceptional environment, its rich maritime and tribal history, and economic importance to the Cape and Islands. And this evening, I'm happy to welcome Libby Buck, who will discuss the world of bird migration research, the science of bird banding at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation's new banding station, and a little bit about Libby before we get started, and I hand things off to her. Libby was raised on Cape Cod. She's now the conservation scientist and land steward at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation, where she is actively involved in ecological research, habitat restoration, and land management across 275 acres of protected land on Nantucket. With expertise in wildlife ecology and bird conservation, she is committed to understanding Nantucket's ecosystems and preserving its unique and rare habitats. As a licensed master bird bander, Libby has started a new migrating bird banding station on Nantucket, contributing valuable data to bird conservation efforts. She's also the compiler for the Nantucket Christmas bird count and serves as a birdability captain, advocating for inclusive birding experiences by breaking down barriers and helping others connect with natures. That's awesome. Her efforts in this role ensure that people of all abilities, all backgrounds have access to birding, can share in the passion of for this natural world. And she aims to make science accessible and welcoming. She's kind enough to join us tonight. And with that, I say hello to Libby. If I could, there she is. Hey, Libby.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, thanks so much for joining us, for being a part of this. It means a lot and can't wait to see and hear it all about it.
Yeah, no, I'm totally excited to do this. I can't wait. And thank you so much for asking me to do this as
Of course.
well.
Of course. And for those regulars, and I know we have many, many regulars, you might recall Seth Engelberg, who also works at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation. I reached out to him and he said that Libby is awesome. You can't go wrong with Libby. Highly recommended. So we're in great hands. After Libby gives her presentation, I'm going to come back. I'm going to jump off, let her do her thing. And if any questions come to mind, feel free to write them in the Q&A portion, and we'll get to those at a moderated Q&A at the end of the presentation. So I'll leave you with Libby. Libby, thank you so much, and I'm excited.
Okay, let me just share my screen and we'll get this going. Um, um, okay.
There we go.
Okay. Are you
We're
seeing it all?
we're in business.
And then can you see this too?
I can see
The
I can
larger.
see your cursor. I can see the bird. Yes, I can see all of it. The
Okay.
Loring logo. Okay, we're
Yeah.
off. Thanks,
Okay,
everyone.
cool. Thank you so much. Yeah, so hi, I'm Libby Buck. I am with the Linda Loring Nature Foundation. And this evening I'm going to talk about the migration station that we started out here, and I'm super excited about it. So I'm going to go into I'll just go into the overview. How about that? So I'm going to go over what is actually bird banding, the history of bird banding on Nantucket, which is like super interesting as well. How I became a bird bander because it is very unique, and a lot of people do ask me questions of like, how do you even go about it? So I'll go into my whole story. And then I'm going to go into the band recovery and how to report and how you guys can report it, any birds that are banded. And I'm going to go back to the Linda Loring Nature Foundation, our migration station, our first year results. And you guys are lucky enough that I just finished up the spring banding session. So no one even knows about those results yet. And then hopefully, if you guys are ever on Nantucket, you'll come out and visit us and you guys can participate in going to the banding station as well. And I just do have a disclaimer that I have to say before I jump into everything else is all of the bandings are, I am federally licensed and state licensed to band birds. So all of my pictures and all the processes are conducted under the USGS Bird Banding Lab and the Mass Wildlife. So you can't just go out in your backyard and start catching birds and doing that. You do have to be permitted and you have to follow certain protocols and be trained and everything like that. So let's do this. So what is bird banding? So bird banding is a permitted research method that has been used by scientists for like literally centuries. And it helps track the movement, migration, survival, population trends, and like there's so many other things you can dive into when it comes to bird banding. I'm going to simplify it a little bit, and there is multiple different types of bird banding. And for this specific talk, I'm going to talk about the songbirds. So songbirds are the birds that are in your backyard. So like chickadees, goldfinches, robins, those guys are what I'm trying to catch at my migration station. So depending on what birds you're going for, depends on what type of device you're trying to capture them in. So first of all, you have to capture the bird. So we use Japanese mist nets, and I will have photos of it when I go a little further in here. But the idea of the net is it interrupts their flight of travel, and so the birds don't see these nets because they're at a fine mesh, and they fall into it and fall into a pocket and get all tangled up in there. And so we have to go in and extract it. And then the next step is we bring it back to the station and we put a unique band on them. And so in this case, again, it depends on what bird you're handling, but each bird will get a specific band, and the band has a unique code on it. And each bird, because birds are all different sizes, will have different size bands as well. And our number one priority is always like the health of the bird and make sure that we try to do this process as quickly as possible to let them go back to being wild. But just throwing that out there too. So anyways, we put the band on the bird and it's for its entire life. And if we recapture it, we can use that band to collect or have the data be sent in and everything like that. But so then we collect all kinds of data of like measurements, the weight. You can even check out the bird condition. It all depends on what project you're doing and what information you're looking for. But there's so many different things that you can record of how the bird is. And then once we get through all that, we will release it. And then hopefully we will recapture the bird. And then in the next couple days or weeks or years, you never know when you're going to recapture it. And that's kind of what's exciting about it. Or if a different banding station will recapture your bird too. And then by doing that, you can see if the bird has grown or changed over time and how old it is too. So we are aging the birds when we put the band on. So sometimes they start off as a baby that year. So you can kind of figure out how old they are if you keep recapturing the bird too. So why Nantucket? Why Nantucket is a good place to band birds? Well, like from the intro in the beginning, the Nantucket Sound is a very awesome place for the birds to travel through because it's a very protected water. But Nantucket is located 30 miles off the coast of Cape Cod. It's surrounded by open ocean on either side. So it's got the Atlantic Ocean and then it has the Nantucket Sound. And we are right in the way of the Atlantic Flyway, which is a huge bird migration route. And being an island, sometimes we're a safe haven for birds while they're migrating through because maybe they got blown off a little bit off course and they're just looking for a place to just, rest, recuperate, have some snacks, and then leave. So Nantucket we do get a lot of rarities that come through, and we also are home to rare habitat as well. And we have a lot of coastal scrub areas and open grasslands, and we do have fresh water for the birds to have as well. So it's just a complete magnet for migratory species. So it's always been on people's minds of like, we should really be paying attention to the birds that are moving through Nantucket. So the history of the bird banding stations on Nantucket. Banding on Nantucket began back in 1955 when the mist nets were first authorized in the US, which I think is amazing that they jumped on it so quickly. So in the beginning, there was John Dennis, and there's John Dennis, Margot Larson, and Edith Andrews, who they all got their banding permits, and they were all working at the exact same time as well. And they would help each other out on their different stations. But John Dennis was the one that really started with Operation Recovery. So the whole idea was to use to really look at the fall migrating birds that are along the Atlantic coast, especially on the barrier islands. So that's what this map is showing, is all the barrier islands. And the whole idea was the banders were banding birds at their stations, and hopefully a bird would fly and land at somebody else's banding station, and then they would have the recovery of trying to figure out where the bird is traveling to and where they are on their migration, because this is well before transmitters or anything like that. Like, they had no idea. So it was all basically by luck of like, hopefully we recapture somebody else's birds as well. So John Dennis started the fall migration Operation Recovery at Mothball Pines. Then this other lady, Margot, and John Dennis is like a famous ornithologist. He has an incredible background and everything. And this is just one of his many projects that he worked on. And Margot Larson, she was really big into bird banding. She had a house in Sconset, and she would band from there. And then she would also go back to her winter home in Fairfield, Connecticut, and band from there as well. And then there was Edith Andrews, who is a very famous ornithologist too for Nantucket. She used to work for, she worked for Maria Mitchell Association, and really was the backbone of a lot of bird research here on the island. And so she started the ice pond bird banding station. And so there's two different types of bird banding programs. So there is the interest in the fall migration, spring and fall migration, and then there's the interest in MAPS. So MAPS is an acronym for Monitoring Avian Population and Survivalship. And what that is it happens during the summer, and it's for our breeding birds in your backyard. So it's the birds that are there nesting, having babies and fledglings, and to see how that's going. And that happens all over the US. In this for this talk, I'm going to just be more focused on the spring and fall migration. So the birds that are traveling and only spending a short amount of time in each on Nantucket as they're either traveling from spring or fall. And then eventually Edith took over doing the mothball pines fall migration as well, and continued that for a very long time. So this was a really cool map as well because it has Nantucket here and it has two of the direct recoveries. So they have 115 days for a myrtle warbler to go to Maryland. Then they had a Cape May warbler that took, sorry, it's small, that took 51 days and made it all the way down to Cuba. So I think that's pretty wild. And it does travel right through the Nantucket. They have Nantucket and the Nantucket Sound right there. So that's, I don't know, it's just wild that they were able to do that even back then. So this is John Dennis, and behind him, you can't really tell, but there is a mist net, and he's holding onto the net as well. And then I couldn't find a picture of Margot Larson, but she had this really cute write-up of her birds and how they quickly would go from Sconset, and they showed up in New Jersey within 5 days later. And then she also had a white-throated sparrow that was banded in Sconset, and then it showed up in Pennsylvania about a month later. So I don't know, I just thought that was really neat. And then this is the famous Edith Andrews, and this is a mist net. And so it has these 4 panels in the pockets, and she's opening it up. And then right here is how, if she captured a bird, she would put it in the holder. So these are all the Nantucket banding stations. So first there was the mothball pines, and which I had talked about just right before this. And with the mothball pines, it was first called Operation Recovery, but then once it became 1980, it switched over to be calling it the Atlantic Flyway Review. And that's when Edith really took it over. So Edith was probably right there from the beginning until 1995. And I didn't make a mistake by having this arrow go into the water. That is where mothball pines is now. It has eroded away, and that is why it stopped in 1995, because it fell in the ocean. So I'm hoping that won't be the case for us. And then the next station was the MAP station. So that's over here at a location in Ice Pond. And then this is the West End and Nantucket and everything. And then, also, I didn't mention this, but the mothball pines is this number 21. It was really hard to find a map of the exact location of it. So with the MAP station, that started in 1995, and it's still running. So first it was Edith Andrews, and then it switched over to Master Bander Dr. Richard V, and then I was sub-permitted and also help him out with that as well. And you're probably wondering, like, who is Dr. Richard V? Well, I didn't mention him just yet because he's going to be in my next slide and has my story of how I got my banding permit. So it will make more sense then. But he also has a banding station out on Tuckernuck since 1998, and it's still running as well. And then my current bird banding station is at the Linda Loring Nature Foundation. And we do spring and fall there, and I just got it started this past year. So it's pretty exciting. And I'm hoping from the location that it's at that we do have some time and I won't have the same situation as mothball pines. So how did I get into this? Well, when I first started, about like 10 years ago, into conservation and shorebird work and everything. So I took a field seasonal position with the Nantucket Conservation Foundation, and I was a shorebird monitor. And while I was as a shorebird monitor, you're there to protect the plovers, least terns, oyster catchers. I'm sure you've seen the closed beaches and know all about the plovers and everything. But within that, there is this ongoing program of the American Oyster Catcher Working Group. And what they have been doing for over, I think it's over 30 years now, have been banding and reciting American oyster catchers. So on Nantucket, they do a lot of the banding of the American oyster catchers. So that was my first like taste of, oh, this is how you do it. This is how we put the bands on and everything. So this is Edie Ray, and she became my mentor, my best friend, my everything. And she was like, I'm going to show you how to do this. So she was working under the sub permit of this guy, Dr. Richard Beat. So when she found out that I was really into bird banding, or at least the oyster catchers, she was like, oh, you should really go and go to the map station that he also runs. And so then I got involved in that, and I would volunteer there every morning, catching all the birds and everything and getting as much experience as I could. And then I love this picture. I think it's one of the first times that I banded oyster catchers. I look like I'm 10. But I still always share that same excitement. And then here Dick is he's holding, this is a different research project, but he does study the lesser blackback gulls migration movement. So we were putting backpack transmitters on them. So that is one, and you can see their band right there. And so with the map station, I think this was the first photo I had of me actually taking a catbird out of the net, and I was really excited. And then as the years went on, I kept volunteering and I kept doing more and more bird banding. Anything I could get my hands on, I would try to do it. So I got better at it, and I started running the American Oyster Catcher banding program for the island under Dick's permit. And then I wanted to diversify and get more banding experience. So there was another researcher out here, Dr. Robert Kennedy, and he was banding the barn owls. And there's a barn owl program run by the Mariah Mitchell Association. So I got into raptors a little bit. And then I felt like, well, I really like working with birds. Do I want to work in a zoo? So I went rogue, and I went to Wisconsin, and I tried out the International Crane Foundation. And they're a very unique organization where they have the whole collection of cranes, like all the species of cranes are there. And they help with the recovery of the whooping cranes and sand and other cranes like that. So you have the chance to be really up close and handle them and get the proper way. Cranes are very angry. They're very angry and aggressive. And I remember when I was first getting into bird banding I would always kind of like flinch a little bit when, like, I don't know, like a chickadee started biting at my fingers, because these are like wild birds. They don't really want to be handled. And so of course they're going to bite you a little bit, but I would flinch a little. And then once I did the winter out at the International Crane Foundation, and I had those big angry birds coming at me, some of them were like 6 feet tall. You really just build your confidence, and you're like, okay, chickadee, that's fine. Like, go ahead. So once you get all this experience, that's fine and great. But in order to get your master banding permit, you need 2 other master banders to be your references. So in my case, I think there's only about 2,000 master banders in the US. So being on an island, it's kind of hard for me to like travel and get to other places and band with other people. So Dick helped me out with meeting some other master banders. So this is Tom Brown. He's out at Sandy Hook, New Jersey, and he was doing fall migration banding, and I got to band alongside with him, and it was really great and fabulous. And I really recommend, if you do go into this career, to go to many different banding stations because they're going to catch all different kinds of birds that you may never see before or have higher quantities of them, or it's always fun. It's always fun, no matter what. And so I needed my third reference, and that was my friend Jose Ramirez Garofalo. And he helped me out so much with going through the whole banding process and everything of getting the permit. And I can't thank these 2 guys enough. And yeah, and then So we have like a Canada warbler, an American redstart, an ovenbird. So those birds, they're very few and far between for the island, even when they're like traveling through. But it was really great to see all those, that many in person. So most of my photos, I'm sitting there smiling, holding birds, right? It's not all glamorous. It's definitely all for that. That is definitely not what's going on. So there are times, like I said, when the birds are going to bite you. So there, I have a northern cardinal. They really like to bite down on your finger. Their bills are meant to bite seeds, like crack down on a seed. So they are going to crack down on your finger. Um, when I was doing the gull research, even with all of the amount of uh, practice and everything and that I've gone through, there's still times when you always have to be paying attention. And unfortunately, the gull got me right in the face. It wasn't this particular gull, it was a different one, the one right before it, but it still can happen. Here I have the two baby oyster catchers and I just banded them. You can see their the yellow bands up there, and they were so happy to see me that they defecated on my shirt. And I think this is such a funny picture because it has my shirt is Nantucket and it says happy place, but that truly is my happy place, holding the birds and everything. This was another adventure. We were up to our knees in a salt marsh trying to find the babies, and sometimes it's just you're just gonna get covered in mud. And then again with the gulls, they're very feisty. So in this photo, I have a gull biting this thumb, and then I have another gull over here biting that thumb, that hand. So it's, you over time you just learn to tolerate it, and you just roll with it. So now that I have my banding permit, I'm gonna circle back to Linda Loring, of where I work. So where I have the banding station. So if you guys ever come out to Nantucket, I really, really recommend coming out to seeing our property. It is beautiful. We are out on the west end of the island. We have 275 protected acres. And this is Linda Loring herself. This lady was a true devoted wildlife advocate and conservationist, and she purchased all the land herself and wanted to create the sanctuary. And she was really about connecting people with nature and bringing them out there and just protecting it for generations to come. So our mission is, well, this is a condensed one of we want to preserve our property's biological diversity through stewardship, research, and education. And we always make sure that the land is the lead when we are going about it. And we have a very extensive education program. That's why I have the free programs, summer programs. We have an ecologist in training. We do nature walks. We have birding trips. We have bird banding demonstrations. We have kayak tours. We have so many things to offer. And then you can also just come out to our trails and walk our trails. And it's just beautiful. But for this talk, I'm going to just focus on the research side of it. So a lot of our research is focused on the birds. We do a lot of phenology, which is the study of nature's timing, habitat restoration, climate resilience, community science, and we have so much more, and we're always building on our programs as well. So let's create our banding station. So unlike the other banding station, the MAPS one that was put together since 1955, so since that is a historic one, you can't really change or update any of the net lanes. So when I was creating my own banding station, it kind of left it open to design it how I would want it. So this is the entire Linda Loring property, the 275 acres. So I wanted to focus down here. This had the most diverse, had a couple different habitats because I really wanted to make sure, I wanted to get as many variety of species as I could. So I have 6 net lanes. That's what these little red lines are in here. And there's this pond out here, and then there's like a ditch that runs along, and then the star marks where I have the actual station itself. And then, so to set up a net lane, with the different habitat types, we have this like dense scrub oak, we have the wetlands, there's these blueberries that come in and the birds go crazy for it. So I was just really trying to diversify as much as I could to get the variety of birds. And so over here, this doesn't typically happen, but I thought it was a cool photo of showing the frost on the net. That was a really weird morning. It was just frosty right when I got there. You're supposed to get there right at like a half an hour after sunrise. And eventually it just melted off and it was all fine. And then this is what the net looks like if it was open, and there's also a bird in the net, and that's how they get captured into these pockets. And then this is what it would look like normally closed. So one of the questions I get a lot is, do I leave my nets up when I'm not there? And the question is, yes, I do, but I keep them closed. I don't have them open. I only have them open during a banding session when we're there to check every 30 minutes. What I do during an active spring migration banding or fall, I have all these ties to keep them shut. And then once that session of spring or fall is over, I will take them down. And we recently just did that last week. And then I will put them back up like a week before when I'm going to start banding again for the fall session. So when you come to the banding station, this is what happens is we kind of get there right a half an hour after sunrise, and we open up the nets, and then we have to go check the nets every 30 minutes. And then we extract all the birds as safely as possible. This photo here is one of my favorite photos because it's the first time that we had a public session, and we had a really great time. We caught a red-eyed vireo. It was just perfect, and I appreciate everyone being there. So we capture it, we bring it back to the table, and then we will use all kinds of different like the data sheet and everything, and the Peter Pyle guide to like check all of our work and make sure that we know what bird we're banding, and having the ID and the banding. The Peter Pyle guide is how many banding stations run, or they have to run their station by that book. That book is a wealth of information. It has all the species of birds, their range, how to ID them, how to sex them, how to age them, all their molt. Like it's what you do. You run by that Bible. So then there's also, I have a data sheet and all these tools, and then there's the scale, and then this is my banding box. So like I said earlier, every bird has a different size band. So sometimes it gets really busy when we have caught a lot. So it's really good to have it really organized, because since each bird has a different size band, you have to make sure that they get the one they're supposed to have. And with each band too, they've already been tested to make sure that it's not going to hinder the bird in any way. They're light enough that it shouldn't mess with them flying or anything like that. So it's perfectly fine. So yeah, so then we go into aging and measuring them. So this is the Peter Pyle guide, and that's this is the yellow warbler, and I have it on the yellow warbler page. And then to open a band, I use these special pliers called banding pliers, and the band kind of opens like a C, and then you put the leg in, and then you kind of close it right up over it. And we always make sure that the band is able to spin and that the seam is closed, so it doesn't get caught on anything. We are checking for molt to see if they're molting, but also that would tell you what kind of age, how old they are. So that's what I'm looking at with this blue jay right here. Then also for like under the condition, the health condition of the bird, I am blowing air up into this catbird. I'm looking at the stomach, and there is, you can kind of see a couple pin feathers in there, but I'm looking for the fat, if it has any fat, if it's molting right now, which that one currently is, and other health conditions under there. And also if it was breeding, it would have like a brood patch. Then we measure the wing, and then depending on what size bird it is, they get a different size device that they put in on the scale. So we have the American goldfinch, who is quite small. So they go into the film canister onto the scale. And then we have the blue jay, which is much bigger. So we put them in the cup. And then we, after everything is done and we collected all the data, we release the birds and hopefully we catch it again. This process, even though it's all in these stages, it goes by really quickly. We're probably done in like, I don't know, 2 minutes. We try our best to always be focused on the birds and to make sure that they are in great condition, because if there is any sign of stress or anything, we will release it, or do the best to alleviate what is going on. We try to do it as fast as we can. So this was the first bird that we caught, and I was so excited. And I don't know if he was like as excited as I was, but it was a yellow rump warbler. He was completely fluffy. He was just traveling back from spring and found my net. And then this is a female yellow rump warbler on the side, and her yellow rump patch is very cute with this little heart over there. And then we have a lot of frequent flyers. So we have the golden crown kinglet, the ruby crown kinglet, black-capped chickadees. Those guys, they love to get into my net, hold on to it, spin around, and they can be quite the puzzle to take out. It takes me a little bit. Red-winged blackbirds, we got the eastern towies, common yellowthroats, catbirds every single day. If you ever come out to visit, I will guarantee we will capture a catbird. And then we have swamp sparrows, and we actually have a higher amount than I was expecting, but it kind of does make sense for the type of habitat with the water and everything that we are in. But that was pretty exciting for me to see those numbers. We get yellow warblers, the American goldfinch, and then we get a lot of exciting captures. And that's what another thing I really like about bird banding is that it's exciting for me as well. Like, yes, I might be capturing the same catbirds over and over and over again, but I never know what I'm going to get. It's just like fishing. You never know what's going to be in your net. So we had a northern parula. This is the female. If we got the male is like really striking, but she's just as pretty. We have the blackpoll warbler, and a fun thing about blackpoll warblers is a saying, if it has yellow soles, it's a blackpoll. So that if it has yellow feet like that, that's a female as well. We have a blue-headed vireo and the red-eye vireo and the magnolia warbler. This is another female as well. And then this spring, this was a really exciting thing for me. We had a worm-eating warbler, and this is very rare. It's completely rare for the island, for our area, and it was new for the banding station. It was a new bird for me to actually band that I've never banded before, but it was a life bird for me. So if you guys are familiar with being a birder, you have a life list of the birds that you've seen throughout your whole life. And if you see a new one, it's called a lifer. So that one was a lifer for me. It was a pretty exciting day. And then this was a fan favorite, and I thought he deserved his own slide. This is a yellow rump warbler again, but as you can see, he was growing in his little feathers. He was actively molting, and so there's different types of how the wings grow in, the wing feathers grow in. So in this case, it is symmetrical because it has it on both sides. But if it was just one, that would be an adventitious molt. And what the adventitious molt means, like if there was something to happen to it where it would lost a feather and it would have to get out of its molt cycle to like fill in that feather, then it would just be on one side. But there's, like I said, in that Peter Pyle guide, there's all this information. So these are the results from 2024. And we captured 183 new birds, and we only recaptured 13. 45 of those were catbirds, and we only recaptured 3 catbirds. So you're probably saying, well, how come the recapture numbers aren't as high? Well, you don't really expect to get many recaptures with fall and spring migration because ideally these birds are only here for like a day or two and then they move on. So whereas with the other banding, the maps or breeding birds, the ones that have the nest in your backyard, you would expect to catch them almost every time you were going to go out banding because they're there, they're residents, they're going to keep popping into the net. So we had 45 new catbirds, which I said we would probably catch one if you come. We had 45 yellow rump warblers and no recaptures of those guys. So those are like complete migratory birds, and they just took off and left. We had 26 black-capped chickadees, and recaptured 7. One day we caught 1 3 times that day. It does happen. We had 8 swamp sparrows. And so for the year, which, like I said, it was my first year, we got 22 species, and we spent 73 hours with the nets being open. And I just wanted to highlight this website. So this website, if it is amazing, and I'm so glad that I joined it. It has all these bird banding stations that want to be a part of it, and you can go to it and you can see the latest results. So even if you're not here and you want to see what I banded that day or whatever, you can go up, see what we caught, what's new, and how the station is going. And they have all these other graphs and everything, and it's really cool. And they have other banding stations, so you can check out what they're doing too. So the results for the spring, I thought I had a really slow start this spring because it was so wet and rainy, and that's part of the deal with bird banding. You cannot band when it's raining or if there's high wind. It is not safe for the birds at all. So I really just didn't have that many days, but we did hire a total of 87 that we captured for 2025, whereas we only had 49 last spring. So we did a little bit better, and I was really surprised by that because this year we also just missed all the yellow-rumped warblers moving through, whereas last year I captured it, and I thought, oh, for sure, if we didn't get those guys, that maybe the numbers would be down, but they're really not. And then the worm-eating warbler, that was a great capture this year. And then you would think that this bird is very average, but the American robin, I still hadn't caught one last year. So it was the first one for the banding station this spring, which was really exciting. So if you walk away from anything from this presentation, is you always want to check their legs and report the bands. You want to look for these metal bands or color bands on dead or alive birds. There was, for instance, a puffin that had washed up on the beach over here, and I looked down and I saw that it had a metal band on it. Every band has the code, so you just have to report what the code is, and you want to drop a GPS point of like where you are. You can just use your phone or whatever. And then you want to go to reportband.gov, fill out their information, and then they will take that information and put it into their database, but they will also send you information of where your bird was banded. So in that case with the puffin, I found out that, well, yes, it was too bad it was dead, but it came from Nova Scotia. So, you know, beggars can't be choosers. I wish it was alive because that would have been a lifer for me too, but that's how it goes, I guess. And so with the birds that I'm banding, the smaller ones, you probably can't capture the metal bands and report them unless they're in your hand. So it would be at a different banding station or if you found them dead. But when I was doing the oyster catcher banding, they have these what's called a field readable band, those like plastic ones that are right there up on the high knee. And they have a specific code. So with those, you don't need to recapture them at all. You can still report that band. And it's great to take pictures too if you have your camera out there. And you can report those in, and those resites are so incredibly important. And every single band has a story, and you can see how old they are. They're still trying to figure out how old birds are, where they've traveled to, and they keep going either further or just in unexpected places. It just keeps on going. So I wanted to do an appreciation post for the bird banding lab. So without it, I wouldn't be able to band birds at all. The bird banding lab supports over 9,000 active banders. So that is 2,000 master banders and then 7,000 sub-permittees. And that includes nonprofits like mine and universities, agency researchers, and they partner with so many nonprofits, so many programs. There's so many banding stations across the US that they support, and each one of them has like this amazing programs of like teaching people about it and also just collecting all this amazing research. So with all these banding records, they have 80 million banding records and 5 million encounter reports. So the encounter reports are the recaptures of after they've been banded or seen again. And then, so one of my projects that I'm looking into is actually comparing the historical data. So I had just asked for a data request, and Nantucket, just the island of Nantucket, has over 100,000 records within their database, which, wow. But with the times that it's at, this is a federally funded, it's under the USGS, and it is in jeopardy. We don't know what's going to happen. And so if it was to be eliminated because it's part of the federal funding of the ecosystem mission area, we don't know what's going to happen. All of the research will be on pause. They won't have any staff to monitor the database. We won't be able to renew our permits, or people can't get new permits or new bands or anything like that. So it will be a crushing blow if that was to happen. And yeah, and without them, they're just the backbone of what keeps all this banding and bird research alive. So hopefully that doesn't happen. So the future plans, if everything goes right, I plan to continue gathering more data for this long-term data set. I have a year and a half on my belt so far, so I have to keep continuing if I'm going to keep up with the 70 years from 1955. So I have to keep on going, doing the spring and fall migration. And what I just mentioned before, I want to really compare the historical migration data to the present, because there are some birds, since we are an island, some birds that do use our island that don't anymore, and vice versa. We have new ones that have come to the island that aren't here anymore. One fun fact I think will blow people's minds is we don't have the tufted titmouse here at all. They don't like to travel over open water, and that is a very common bird everywhere else. There's other birds like that too, but that one's always like, what? And then I also want to add transmitters to the birds that I'm capturing, just to see what their migration is like, and to get that information as well. I really want to focus on probably more of the common species. Like, everyone always asks me, where do our catbirds go? And like, I can say that they go south, but I don't know exactly where. So it would be lovely to answer those types of questions. And then also, we're doing so much outreach with this. I'm going to continue doing the public sessions. I really want to train more people and have volunteers, because I think it's such a great skill to have. I also want to teach more kids about the bird banding process, whether they be elementary to college. And I want to have like more kids banding sessions. So we already did like this little outreach program with a science fair, and we brought stuffed animals in, and kids could see the whole process without actually having the real birds in their hands, but they got to put them in the nets, and then we were weighing them. And then all these public programmings, there's just something that happens once somebody holds the bird in their hand and gets to release it at the end. They just always have, I've never seen someone sad. They always have this such an excitement. There's a magic about it, of like that quick connection with nature. But with that, I'd like to say thank you so much for having me. And I really hope to see you guys come out to our programs or out on our trails if you're ever on the island. And if you want to learn any more information, visit our website, llnf.org, or follow us on social media. We're all over the place, and we have some like really funny posts too. And then the QR code's right here as well. And feel free, if you have any bird questions or anything, I love to answer those. So you can reach out to me. That'd be perfectly fine as well. But yeah, so I can answer questions or anything.
There I am. Oh my God, that was great. Thank you, Libby, so much. That was great. First of all, the photo of you holding that the sandhill crane,
Yeah,
that should be your forever profile picture.
I know, right? With the goggles and everything.
And I have a few questions, but there are a couple of people here that do have
Yeah.
questions that I'll moderate for you. Great. So Kate asks, what are some of the most interesting birds that you've seen this spring? And you showed us that great chart, which was amazing.
This spring. So it was more not necessarily the most interesting birds that I've seen, but the number seems so low to me that I feel like, well, the worm-eating warbler. So not only did I capture one, But I also follow a lot of other banding stations in the same region. So on the Cape, there's many, and people should go and visit them. But there's like Manamet and everything. And there seemed to be a huge movement of these worm-eating warblers that were coming through, and we just happened to capture one as well. But I think the birds this spring were really traveling more inward. They weren't really coming all the way out to shore this year. And so I'm really curious about how the fall migration is going to be and how they're going to come back in and everything. So, yeah. Whereas, like in the fall last year, I got all kinds of different migrants that weren't just the catbirds or towhees coming through and everything. It was really more exciting.
Andy says incredulously, no robins, no wrens. I thought I'd make my own reading for that. So
Well, I do have Carolina wrens that I do capture. The robins though, so at the other map station we do catch quite a few. I don't know why my station they just don't really come down there. I don't know. We haven't figured it out. It was really surprising to catch that one this year and to be excited for a robin. I don't know.
he follows that up and he asks, do you have a problem with hawks picking birds out of the nets?
I currently don't, but I do know a lot of people that do. Where we are, I don't really have too many predatory hawks, like maybe a red tail that flies around, but there isn't any like hanging off to the side like others. So at different banding stations, like bigger ones, there's some banding stations that have like 40 nets going at a time, but the hawks will actually queue in on the birds stuck in the net and come back and try to get them. But currently right now I don't. So
not with you. Great. Tom asks, are you connected to the group that uses little transmitters for tracking traveling birds on Monomoy?
Well, so the whole network is how the transmitters work. They work with the MODIS. I can't remember what the whole acronym is, but the MODIS network uses those geolocators. And we just recently got another MODIS tower nearby on the island. And that is when I'm going to get these transmitters, they will probably be MODIS ones. And I'll be a part of the network as well. But I do like follow everybody else and what's going on with their birds too, flying through.
Bill asks, what is a northern cardinal?
The northern cardinal, it's the red, it's bright red, comes to your feeder. It has like the dark black mask. But yeah, it's just like the cardinal for the East Coast, the northern cardinal.
You had mentioned that cranes were the typically angry type of bird. What's the bizarro crane? The opposite of the crane, like one that you like, you're not going to have any issues or a sweet disposition.
That is one of the most exciting things for me too about banding different birds is like I don't want to say that they have personalities, but they do have personalities when you're holding them. And I'm always like, are they going to be feisty? Are they not going to be feisty? Are they just going to sit there? So there are certain birds that literally just sit there, and that's a mourning dove. A mourning dove will just sit in the pocket and be like, this is it. Like, whatever. And then you go to release it, and sometimes they'll like hang out in your hand for a couple minutes because they're just totally like, should I go now? Like, I don't know. So they're very docile. But I don't know, other birds are very feisty.
So, you're studying birds, you're trying to understand their behavior, their movements, their survival, and you showed us that fantastic chart. What's like, not, I'll say the most surprising thing, but a surprising thing that based on your bird banding and your research and your data, what's the most surprising or one of the most surprising things that you've been able to take away? Like when you look at that chart, what are you taking away going, oh my God,
Yeah, well, I'm completely blown away by if I compare it to other banding stations, that they're kind of lower numbers, but I'm only using 6 nets. But with that, when I look at all those graphs, it's more of like how many species, when are they moving through? That what I cue in on is like, so the catbirds, I didn't really touch upon this, but the catbirds weren't here for a little bit this spring, and then all of a sudden they all showed up. And then I was capturing them every day, and vice versa on the other side. When I was doing like the fall migration, we were capturing them every single day, and then all of a sudden gone, like they were totally, everyone was gone. So I really love to capture the phenology of it, and that kind of stems back to the other nature's time. So we have a plant phenology project that's on the island or on our property that we have 10 years worth of data. So I would love to really compare the bird phenology now to the plant phenology of nature's timing to see if climate change is really affecting, like, when are the birds showing up? Is it earlier or later? Is that good or bad? I don't know. Sometimes it is better, sometimes it's not. Um, and there's really unique things of like, I can't wait to see if we capture birds that aren't on the island just yet too. The Carolina wren, they just recently, like in the last 30 years, showed up here. Like, they haven't been here at all for the most part. We also don't have like great horned owls here, or I don't know. It's unique for being an island. Mhm.
Andy says that his 5-year-old grandson Chase, he's watching the show right now. He's very interested in birds, insects, and fish right now, and
Yeah.
Nantucket is absolute heaven. Do you have 5-year-olds in your programs?
Yeah, we do have a lot of kids programs. Yeah, we do. And I'm planning on adding more of like the bird banding stuff, but also like on our website, if you just go to check out our educational programming, we have so many things, especially for kids. One of the big things that I think you would probably like is the iNaturalist BioBlitz that we do if you're on island. That's really great, and it captures everything, and it's like playing Pokemon. It's like you got to find them all, and it's a really great time, and it's going to happen in July, I believe. But yeah, we have all kinds of programming. It's really great. We do birding trips and everything. So
So check out so go to the website if you're interested, the Linda Loring Nature Foundation website, and
Mhm.
check out their upcoming events. One Nantucket Sound specific question:
Yeah,
is it an important body of water as far as like a stopover or a flyaway for migrating birds? The sound in
I
general?
think so. I think it's very important just because of how protected it is.
Yeah.
I think some birds, especially coming from off the Atlantic in, they just need that. I'm thinking of more like sea ducks when they're traveling through. They just need that protection sometimes to get out of the wind to just survive that storm or whatever it may be. Also, it's I feel like it's probably like a little, I don't know, protected, but also like warmer in there. So they probably enjoy that as well. Um, and then also with the where Nantucket is placed, like along the East Coast, it's in the Nantucket Sound. We're usually right at a climate change where we might be the northernmost limit for the southern species, or we're the southernmost limit for the northern species. So sometimes with our mild climate for that winter, they might be able to be in that safe haven and survive that whole winter just because they were in this mild little climate area for a hot second. So I think it's crucially important.
I have one last question. You had mentioned that the station started in 1955. I had no idea, so that was interesting. Have they changed much or transformed with technology in any way? What are the most like striking ways they have transformed or evolved over the decades to present day?
Yeah, I would say like the equipment itself, the process hasn't changed, but like the equipment has definitely changed. They have better nets. They make them out of a different material that's a little bit more weather resistant, and also they don't, I don't know, they have a little bit more stretch to them and everything like that. But also just like we have more exact measurements with higher tech like scales or calipers, and so there's that level of it. And then also now we can put transmitters on them, like that was never even a thought.
Yeah. No, this is great. I thank you so much, Libby. I love these webinars because I get to meet and to learn from experts and speakers like you. We've had so many of them through since we've been hosting these, and just thank you so much. I've learned a lot, and it's so fascinating. You can really see the true joy, just
Yeah.
in you talking about them and in the pictures.
Yeah.
Just a wonderful presentation. So I thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you. I'm so glad I got to share it with everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And to everybody out there, if you want to get in touch with us or our president, Audra Parker, here's the information for that. It's audra@saveoursound.org. If you'd like to email me, I'd love it. It's peter@saveoursound.org. There's our contact information. And you don't want to miss our next webinars. We have one in August. We're taking July off. But fascinating with Robert Roca of the New Bedford Whaling Museum. He's going to be doing a presentation on our connection to the Azores. So that should be fascinating. And then we wait till October. It'll be here before you know it. It always is. White sharks, our first webinar on sharks in our waters here in the Sound, Cape Cod Bay. Awareness inspires conservation. That one is with Kristen Smith of the Atlantic White Shark Conservancy in Chatham. And that is it. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for joining us. You can see all of our webinars on our website. Everyone have a great night and a great rest of your week. Take care. Bye, Libby.